Well, welcome back to the Radio Gamescast. As always, I'm your host Ryan, and I'm joined today by my lovely cohort of co-hosts, Wyatt,
Hello.
Alex,
Who's ready to violate some copyright?
and Alex.
Pardon?
Hello? I don't know what that meant.
Why are we violating copyright? What's going
What are you talking about?
I don't know. The mouse might come after me.
Oh,
Okay.
I have a secret tool for us to use later.
What
is happening?
What's going on? It's
Oh, we're
I'm
so
getting all
off
the
the rails
unhinged
already.
stuff out of the way.
not even
All right.
unhinged. It's just nonsense, which I guess
Bizarre,
is kind of the same
even?
thing.
Yeah, kind of the same thing. Okay, well, it's the Games Club episode that we do every month or two, and we got a bunch of games to talk about. And by a bunch, I mean 3, because that's how many games we played. So, I hope that it tickles your fancy. Our games this time, I'm going to suggest we start off with, I think, South of Midnight. Because I think this is probably going to be the most even game that we're talking about. Just taking a wild guess there. But, yeah, Wyatt, you want to take us away?
Yeah. South of Midnight is a newer, not newer. It is new. Sort of Microsoft.
Yeah, it's brand new.
Microsoft published,
Compulsion Games.
Compulsion Games, who made Contrast, which I've heard very good things about. And I've yet to play, but I've always wanted to. And I never did play We Happy Few. I heard that got better post-launch, much better post.
I didn't realize
have
at all
not-
this was that same developer.
Same developer. Um,
I really
so
like the
it's,
contrast, so...
that's what I keep hearing. So we have a very straightforward, like, narrative-driven action-adventure game. There's combat, there's platforming, and then there's a heavy focus on, like, cutscenes and dialogue and story and characters, that sort
And
of thing.
music that goes so hard.
Oh, I want to get this. Okay, so I feel like the discussion around gameplay is going to take a little while.
Yeah.
So I want to get what this game absolutely nails 100% out of the way first. Presentation, gorgeous. It's a beautiful, beautiful game. Both in terms of its art style and its like VFX is beautiful. And I'm sure we'll get on to the kind of low frame rate presentation style.
Yeah, how
Like almost
about
like
the intro
claymation
cutscene
look.
too?
Or stop
Yeah.
motion look.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Which was like stop motion. It looked really, really cool. Music, 15 out of 10. This is some incredible
Some real
stuff.
bangers.
And not even that it's just good music, it's also used incredibly well.
And really unique. Like this
Really
deep
unique.
South soundtrack is not a thing you typically hear in video games, and so it's really fascinating to have a whole soundtrack that is like banjo and folk music.
And I'm pretty sure
I love not only it's like I love having a folk ballad in the background too. during
Yeah,
combat.
with lyrics, which is rare. Beautifully sung and everything. Interestingly, and I think this is the way it works. There are various tracks in one chapter because the game's divided by chapters, but they'll also take a song and then add instrumentation and lyrics to it as the level goes on.
Yep.
Which is so cool. I always love when you see that in a game, and it's beautifully done.
Always super fun.
Accentuates moments really well. Also, like, cutscenes are well made. They look really, really nice. Voice acting across the board is fantastic. Everything with the presentation of this game, like 11 out of 10. Incredibly well done. The gameplay is I think going to be a bit of a hitching point for some people, depending on who you are. I'm of the mind
It's a little
that
rough.
that it does its job well enough in terms of kind of shepherding the player from story moment to story moment and providing some fun enough combat in between that. I don't think it goes far beyond that kind of level for me. So combat it's like very specific sections, right? It's like once you enter a combat scenario,
Those like a
you
Devil
are
May
in-
Cry set up oddly
Yeah,
enough,
yeah,
where you
you
enter
are-
like
you
a
are in a
little
zone.
thing.
Yeah, which I think works fine. That doesn't really bother me that much. You have your basic attack. You have your kind of like charged heavy attack, and then you have your swath of abilities as well as a dodge. And I think for the most part, I think it works fine.
Yeah, I
You
think a
have,
good way to
abilities,
describe it from me is that everything feels like it has a very tiny amount of clunk to it. Not like an amount that is at all affecting my enjoyment, but it's an amount where I notice it, where it's like, oh, this attack just has like a weird delay at the end, or like,
Yeah.
when you're dodging, especially the dodge is like, I actually think the dodge itself is very responsive, but the dodge attack afterwards is, I think, very hard to actually use because it doesn't go far
Yes.
enough to like re-hit the enemy. So yeah, it's very
The other
finicky.
problem with the dodge that I found too is that I don't know if anyone else had this problem, and I double checked to see if this was the low frame rate animation or not. It's kind of difficult to read enemies in terms of when they're actually going to attack you, even though they give you a
Oh,
nice
absolutely,
red arrow.
yeah.
I agree. It was a tight
Yeah.
window to dodge that.
It's the combat is it starts off very rough, I think, before you get more of your abilities. The abilities improve it somewhat.
What
It,
abilities did you guys end up getting at the end of your however long you
I
played?
think I had all of them.
I think at least
I made
one
it through
upgrade for
through to like towards the end of chapter 3, so I think I had everything.
Well, I got one upgrade
there's a
for the
few more, I
push, the
think.
pull, the
Okay.
web, and the jump attack.
Okay.
That sounds about like what I had.
Okay. So I had all of
I'm
those.
in the point in the story where I just got the bottle, but I've been meaning to play some more.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think I'm just before that.
So I have all of those. There's also, did anyone unlock Crouton?
Nope.
No,
So
he's your little
Crouton,
sack buddy.
Crouton is your little sack buddy that you can have him run into tiny little areas to get to either progress or like get little upgrades for you. But he's also used in combat where you can throw him at somebody and the haint will actually fight for you for a limited time, which is kind of fun.
That's
Oh,
There's
cool.
also an ability that pauses enemies or like it like stuns them in place so you can hit them or do whatever you want. Um, there's also like a Y ability where it's like a charged like super attack. There's a couple stuff there. There's upgrades also that kind of make these abilities better. My main issue is that there's a few abilities that require you to hold a button and stand in place, and with the way that
Does
the
not
game
feel
combat
like
works,
you have
the
time for
timing
that.
does not work. No, no,
Oh,
no.
yeah.
Very rarely do you
Even
use
the times I've like
charge
tried to
heavy
use the
attack
charge
really well.
attack, like the base charge attack, it feels like I get whapped immediately.
Yeah,
and I'm just like not
I
able
feel
to
like
pull
I
it
was
off.
hitting it like a quarter of the time, or probably less even.
It
only
feels
ended
like
up
the
using
combat
it.
is. Sorry, no.
No, I was just gonna say I almost only ended up using those charge attacks like after I had stunned an enemy or something like that, which was a good way to do a bunch of damage, but it was hard. It was difficult to pull off in combat otherwise.
It felt like the combat was almost there. It just needed another pass or two, and then it would be in like a really really good spot. It just needed like a bit more work. It's like 70 to 80% there.
Because the animations and stuff are great.
Beautiful. Yeah.
And the thing with the like attack reading, because I totally get that complaint. I did manage to like kind of get on top of it once I saw the whatever claw they're attacking you with glows red when it's the time for a perfect dodge. But it's very subtle, and the haints are already pretty red, so it kind of fades into the background a little bit because of that.
I think for me, it's a combination of I feel like they're designed beautifully, but in terms of trying to read them as enemies,
Because they're
it's a
like
little
jittering
confusing.
all over the place the whole
They're
time.
jittering. They're red in certain spots, and then just like the timing is so weird. And I even after I think I've played almost 10 hours at this point, it's still like a little off.
I found for me the
Also-
thing that was actually hardest was the wasp nest thing.
Oh,
God.
yeah,
Just
because
made
you
it
have
really annoying to
do
deal
like
with.
well, you don't have to do it, but it recommends you do like the push and pull stuff for that. And the abilities have annoyingly long cooldowns.
Yeah, they're super
That
long.
gets better.
Yeah.
That gets better with upgrades.
At the start, they're super
Okay,
long.
thank
I think
God.
I found the first fight with the first fight with the wasp haints really. I don't want to say difficult because I didn't fail it, but it was like I could not do the thing that they intentionally wanted me to do because when the thing happened, I would try to do it and it would just cast in like the other direction because I think it goes in the direction you're looking, not the direction you're like moving the stick in, which feels really awkward at that point.
It's really not great when there's certain abilities or actions in your combat abilities that feel like you're actively punished for trying to do them.
Which is every ability that makes you stand still.
Yeah, which thankfully isn't your entire roster, but it's enough for it to be annoying, but not enough, I think, to really ruin the combat for me.
Yeah, it's also like we're talking
No,
a
I
lot
thought
about
it was definitely
combat.
serviceable.
We're talking
Yeah,
a lot about combat. Combat is not what you're doing the majority of the time.
But I think it's important to point out because I
Yeah.
think it's going to be the sticking point for a lot of people, which I understand. I did want to leave kind of the premise for last. I know we usually start with that, but I want to leave it for last because I feel like there's a lot to chew on there. But
Yep.
I did want to get the sticking point out of the way. It's not terrible. Like I said, I think it does a good enough job of kind of shepherding the character from moment to moment. And there are moments where, especially when you get some upgrades in and you're kind of used to it, it does feel really, really good. It does that thing that I love where if you kill enemies, it rewards you with health, with like health.
Yeah,
you have like an execution ability.
Yeah, and it's really, really nice. Also, everything's beautifully animated. They really try and use the strings and your hooks a lot to make really cool looking attacks, which is a lot of fun. The way they animate Crouton is really fun. Like when you pick him up, you kind of like attach strings to him and kind of like flip him up into your hand and stuff like that. It looks so cool. Also, outside of combat, there's platforming. So there's like a double jump. There's not like a midair dash, but it's kind of like a glide. There's wall running. There's spots where there's moments where you have to like kind of project objects into existence to use them as a platform or something like that. I reached a part recently where there's like wind tunnels where you use your paraglider to like fly through a wind tunnel. All fun. I think the problem is that they're not a lot of the like traversal stuff is not used in super interesting ways. They're just kind of there. It's like, oh, you run over to a wall jump and you do that. There's a thing that and then you like get onto it to the next little bit and then you have to project a platform and then move on to that. But they don't combine them in interesting ways that kind of
I've got a weird
challenges you to use
comparison
the
for you, Wyatt,
traversal.
that I'm very curious. I don't know
Okay.
that anyone else here has played Prince of Persia games, aside from the
I have,
Metroidvania.
but like not in years.
Yeah, so you might understand
Not
what I'm
since the
getting at with this.
PS3.
I think this has the toolkit of a Prince of Persia game for movement, but the level design of Uncharted. So like it doesn't take
Yes.
advantage of.
There's the Uncharted climbing. That's right.
And I don't mind the Uncharted climbing. I think it's fun. But I do
don't mind
think
it, yeah.
I like the Uncharted.
the toolkit that they give you feels like I could be doing so much more like crazy stuff with it. Or just really innovative things that I just didn't really, at least so far. But as a reminder, we don't play the whole game for this. We play
I'm
the
close.
first like
I'm
hour
about-
or two.
I'm about 10 hours in. I'm on chapter 9 of 14, which
Oh.
is actually a lot closer than it sounds because some of these chapters are like 10 minutes long. Like they're really short.
Yeah,
Like
it
little
really
just
depends on
story
like what's
beats.
happening with the story beat. Yeah.
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 But otherwise, I've actually really enjoyed the game for the most part, and I definitely think this is one I'm going to be finishing.
I agree.
Absolutely.
Because like the story really grabbed me.
Yeah.
Which do
Which
we want
I
to move
think-
into that?
Let's move into that. So I know we normally start with the premise, but I kind of wanted to save it for last because it's kind of the most juicy part.
It's
to
what the
talk
game's
about.
primarily focused on, compared to like
Yeah.
combat and whatnot, which is sort
Yeah.
of like a secondary thing.
I actually think that if I were to play this more, I might bump the difficulty down. Not all the way, but like because the combat is so much not the focus that I
Not
kind of just
necessarily
want
a
to breeze through
second
it.
thought.
That's the
but-
nicest way you could have put that.
It's not the
Oh,
thing that I really want to be doing.
Yeah,
mean, I
I
enjoy
don't
the
think it's bad,
combat.
but like
I enjoy the combat enough. I think I have it on. It's either like it's like medium or one step up from medium, and that's fine for me. I enjoy it enough. But the premise is you play as Hazel in the town of Prospero, which I think is a fictional town. I don't think that's a real town. I could be wrong. In is oh shit, is it Louisiana? I forget off the top of my head.
It's
it
Louisiana.
feels like Louisiana.
It is 100% Creole
Yeah.
Louisiana.
Yeah. And your mother's taken away, who's a social worker, taken away in a giant flood, and so the entire story is you trying to find your mother and where she went after she's been swept away in this flood. But along the way, you find out that Hazel is a weaver, who is someone who can kind of tap into the tapestry, which is kind of like our fabric of reality. Um, and the role of weavers is to find what are called knots in the tapestry, which are basically spawned from people's inner grief or inner anger, whatever it may be, and their role is basically to fix these knots and help these people through their various traumas.
Bottle it up.
Because these knots bring in what are called haints, which are basically kind of demon characters. Those are the things that you fight in the game. And so along the way, she's trying to help these people with their with their various traumas, while also trying to find her mom, which right off the bat is something that I love, because you can tell that Hazel and her mom, because I love the cut scene where it's just them talking in their house. You can tell that they love and care about each other a lot, but there's a separation. There's kind of this disconnect between Hazel and her mom, just because of what her mom does as a job, and it kind of keeps them separated.
It felt really kind of natural and real to me.
The dialogue is great.
Yeah.
It's setting up some great character
board.
growth later down the line.
I'll also specify, so apparently, Chickasaw County, real county in Mississippi, fictional town. And it uses folklore from across Louisiana up to like the Appalachians.
Okay.
Very interesting.
Thank you. But I loved how they're kind of paralleling the role of a weaver with Hazel's mother's job as a social worker. So throughout the story, she's kind of understanding her mom's role a lot more, which I really really liked. And what's interesting is a lot of the time each chapter is dedicated to one kind of creature, who's usually the target of some sort of anger or depression or whatever it may be.
Or you got to rescue big catfish.
You got to rescue a big catfish. Sometimes you have to rescue a gigantic alligator, which was kind of fun. I don't know if anyone got up to that part with a two-toed Tom or anything like that, but that was great. Big old tree. Yeah, it's really interesting. I like Hazel as a character a lot. She's incredibly likable, really well written. Like I said, the voice acting across the board is great. The way that her family legacy kind of comes back into the picture later on in the story, I found very interesting, and I'm still kind of seeing.
Well, because you kind of start with that at the start a little bit. Like you get some of it, and then it hard turns.
Hard turns, but then it comes back, which I will say is the pacing of that's a little clunky. It feels like they really had to like do a whole lot of setup and then come back to it later on, taking a bit more time to get back to it than I think I would have liked.
Which, yeah, I would say, surprisingly, we didn't mention this in the combat section, but we, again, do give this a demo treatment why it's played a bit more. But if we had stuck strictly to like the 1 hour thing that we tend to set as like the minimum for Game Pass games, I don't know that we would have done more than a single fight. Maybe one. But
maybe one,
because the start of the game is incredibly like narrative heavy in a good way. Like I really liked it.
I think we would have been positive about it, but we would have been
for sure.
Like, there's definitely a lot that we wouldn't have seen in the first
it would feel like we hadn't learned a lot about the game.
Weirdly, I feel like one of the hardest fights I came across was the tutorial fight.
Yeah, same, because you don't have anything.
It puts multiple enemies against you at the same time, and like the following fights, I mean, it does that again eventually, but like the following few fights just don't.
Yeah, they just put two enemies max against you. This is the same as this tutorial, and you have way more stuff to deal with them. So,
yeah, I will say I do have some small gripes with the story, at least where I'm at, and I don't know if anyone's going to agree, and it's still something that I'm kind of going back and forth about. But I'm very curious. In terms of the chapters that you've done, or like the characters that you've helped out, where have you guys gotten to? I'm curious.
How about the big catfish?
Still just got my bottle.
You got your bottle.
Yeah,
do you know about the
I'm
tree?
in the process of helping him.
Benny the tree.
Benny's the big catfish. Yeah. Well, the tree holding the big catfish.
No, I'm talking about. Sorry, Benji. Sorry, it's been a minute.
Yeah, big catfish chapter is the same as tree chapter. Yeah.
Right, but you haven't. have you climbed up the tree? I guess.
No, not up the tree.
Okay.
But I've gotten the things. I know the tree's backstory.
Okay.
If that makes sense.
So you've done like the combat encounters that gets
Yeah.
rid of the. There's so many terms that I'm struggling to remember, but specific combat encounters will
The
then lead you
stigmas
to a
that you
stigmas.
get
Thank
rid
you.
of. Or the stigma vortexes is what they're called, because stigma is just the general term, and then you stick them in your bottle.
That's one thing I will say. A lot of terms that they throw at you.
A lot of terminology, and the thing that gets me with the terminology usage is they're not consistent. Because the game refers to these things in game terms, but every character has their own like way that they speak about these things, and that
Which
can
is
get a little
interesting.
confusing.
But it is unclear.
Yeah, like I like that idea. The thing that got me is like the point where like this stood out to me because Hazel has referred to the thing she sees as strands for the entire tutorial, all the way through it, and then you get to the big catfish, and the big catfish is like, "What, you know the strand things?" And she's like, "Huh?" And then he has to like describe them with 4 different terms, and then she eventually says, "Oh yeah, the strands."
That felt like the gameplay team and the story team were not quite synced up.
I was like, "Yeah, that concept was introduced like 2 chapters ago."
And
We
you're
don't
like, am
need
I
to be
supposed to know
confused
what
about
this
that.
is or not? Yeah, it's very. So you haven't quite gotten to like all the way to the top of the tree yet.
No.
So I'm gonna try and speak about this in somewhat vague terms because I don't want to spoil anything because it seems like we all want to keep playing. The way that these chapters work is there's typically like a boss or some sort of creature that's very prominent in the area, and then the stigma vortexes that you're clearing out, which are combat encounters that are then followed up by some sort of cutscene related to the trauma that's kind of
Creating
haunting
the
area.
stigma vortex.
Right. And it gives you the backstory for a character or the monster or whatever it is, and then you eventually. Oh boy, I'm trying to tiptoe around spoilers. Face the boss, or there's also a section where you're running away from. I'm just not even going to get there. I'm just not even going to go there. Part of the problem that I have is that you're as a weaver, you're supposed to be kind of helping people through their trauma. But what ends up happening is that you see the backstory for a lot of these things. You hit something, you fight a boss, and then everything is just kind of resolved, and then you move on. I really wish these, because some of these backstories get really dark, like in like a kind of fucked up like, okay, we went there kind of way, but it's not really like delved into that much. It's very surface level, like here's what happened, now go fight this thing. And I really wish, because again they're trying to draw parallels between being a weaver and being a social worker, that you kind of like dig into these things a little bit more, or at least talk to some of the people that are affected by this, but you don't really. Like there's a character that you talk to that seems like a really nice person, and then you learn more about their backstory in a specific chapter, and you're like, oh, this person did something really horrible, like really like abhorrent. But then once you fight the boss that is a result, the monster that's a result of this horrible action, you just kind of move on. You never talk to this person.
Like go reconcile what actually happened.
There's no like reflection whatsoever. You just kind of move on. And so while it's very interesting, and occasionally Hazel has some kind of interesting insights into it, or like an interesting reaction or something, it's never like it's like frustrating because you kind of want them to go in a little bit deeper, which I know would require a certain level of tact. But I feel like these writers are talented enough where they could probably tackle something like that if they wanted to. So yeah, I kind of wanted a bit more from the like healing aspect, or the some sort of like reconciliation, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
I
I
feel like that's
would
the only
agree with
part
you
where
at
it's
least
really
where
vulnerable.
I'm at, because it feels like we kind of have moved on very quickly from certain things, but I think I need to
Yeah.
get further in to really see that happen more than once. So
Yeah. I do feel like the parts that's the most fleshed out and handled well is when her family's legacy kind of comes back into the picture. I think that's handled really, really well.
I also do want to
And
mention
again,
that
it tells me it tells me that like if they wanted to kind of dive deeper into some of this material, they could. I feel like they have the
The
talent
chops for it.
too. Yeah, exactly.
For me, I think the thing that I have liked the most about the story is the pacing. It feels like it's
Yes.
really, really consistent with making sure that your reward for any combat encounter is more interesting story that's really well presented, and that has felt really good. They also do some really clever like level design stuff with the weird secret things you can find, which is generally just like extra currency for upgrades and whatnot. But there's some very cool like platforming tricks you can get to with some of the abilities that are fun in the first areas.
Speaking of which, I have a question, Ryan. So you grew up in the South, right?
Yep. Well,
We-
okay. So I
How
grew
often
up
have
in
you
the
had
Northeast.
to double jump and platform, Ryan?
well,
Yeah,
I have
all
a
the time.
Very specific
Grew up in
question.
Northeast, spent summers in Louisiana. So
Okay.
probably like a third of my time was spent in the deep
Okay.
South.
I may have asked you this question already. There's a thing in this game, so one of your abilities is to push things, like think of like a force push,
Yeah.
right? One of the collectibles that gains some of like the currency used for upgrades is tin flipping.
Yeah.
Is this a thing? Or because I'm trying to, because so much of this is based in like southern like deep south folklore or a lot of that culture. Where does tin flipping come from? Is this a thing
So tin
that
flipping,
you know of?
to my knowledge, the reason it's like this is that when you flip in Louisiana in the summer, it gets really hot, and so any like critters will go find shade. So if you see a big thing like that, if you want to see cool things, you flip it over so you can see the underside where there's like critters, like bugs or like a small mammals, snakes could be hiding. If you want to do that, I have never heard it referred to as specifically tin flipping, but like my guess as to what they would be doing is like that might be the inspiration.
Because I did a quick Google search and nothing came up. I just wasn't sure if this was some part of that culture that I'm just not aware of.
Yeah, I don't.
I
To,
just
to my
don't.
knowledge,
I
it's not a
was
specific
curious.
thing. But
I was just curious as to if it had some sort of
from what I can see here on
basis.
YouTube, at least, there are videos of people tin flipping and they're looking for snakes. Is the
Okay, that sounds about right.
the bent? I don't know. Not a big thing in the area that my folks are from.
Sure. Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, I
Appreciate
will
it.
say the general vibe nails the theme of like South folk tales, because I think that's much less of a thing. You don't hear like folk tales as often in other parts of the United States, but I think like in the South it is still very common that like when you have Christmas or the holidays or something, if your family celebrates them, you read like Creole folk tales of events. So like I grew up on Creole Santa stories and stuff like that. They very much fit the vibe of South of Midnight, to the point where I think what I'm going to end up doing with this game is playing it with my mother when I'm visiting her, because I think she would really like it. So I think like, yeah, the vibe is immaculate. As far as everything going on, and like the
Which is
hurricane
I got
stuff
the impression
is very
that the
natural.
writers must have had some,
Oh, for sure.
Well,
authentic experience with that.
and that's interesting because Compulsion, they're are they French or French Canadian? Yeah, they're based in
They're in
Montreal,
Montreal.
Canada.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. I mean, I'm
Hey,
sure
there's the French connection.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I guess.
No, I've met some of the Compulsion folks before. They're very chill devs.
Yeah, they seem like, because we met them when we were in Montreal.
Ages
They seemed
ago,
very
but
cool. Ages ago, but they seem very cool.
all right. Any other South of Midnight thoughts that we want to go through? I think in general, is everyone feeling that they want to finish this?
Absolutely.
Oh, yeah, I think I will.
Yeah, I think for me this is a good month. I think I kind of want to finish all of the games. In fact, I finished one of them
was
already.
thinking the same
but-
thing.
Yeah.
Ryan, I don't know if it's possible for us to finish Blueprints.
I count finishing as having hit the credits. I accept that I will
Okay.
never read every sigil puzzle in Blueprints.
We'll get there. We'll get
We'll
there.
get there.
We'll
Those are
get there.
crazy.
Okay.
No, but
why-
I also like, just to close us out too.
Go for it.
Just because there's been a lot of talk about the rising price of video games and just budgets in general. It's really, really cool that Microsoft is funding games like this that are more niche, that tackle really kind of subject matter that isn't normally covered in video games, and that they're also willing to fund projects that are, what is this, $40?
$40. A good note
$50?
to put here.
Very, very cool.
Put all of our
especially with-
complaints in that. I think we're judging this the same as we would judge any other AAA game, right? So
Yeah.
for $40, I
Um,
feel like I'm getting well more than my money's worth.
Oh yeah, I mean, I like this game. I think we all did.
I like
the
it-
fact
I like
that we
it
all
quite a
plan on
bit.
finishing it.
I like this quite a bit. But yeah, no,
It also
it's
helps
just
that
cool
it's just
that you
super
have
unique.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it's just cool that there's that Microsoft is willing to kind of like this and things like Senua's Saga, that sort of thing. Just like kind of out there, like what feels like more indie games, but just injected with budget. And I think that's kind of a cool place to be in as a major publisher. So I respect that quite a bit.
For sure.
This is great. I really, really like it.
All right, Wyatt. Well, what is your next Game Pass game that you want us to play?
Well, and like I said, it's cool that Microsoft is willing to look at smaller studios and Ryan knows where this is going, and cool, smaller projects, and we always like to highlight indie games in this channel. So with that in mind, with that spirit in mind, my next game is Doom: The Dark Ages.
Oh no!
That's like a
I have
good
to choose
time.
my pick.
That game looks rad. It's been getting mostly very positive attention. Very much looking forward to it.
Yeah,
And I don't
I'm
want this
super
show to
excited.
turn into like we just pick new stuff that's coming out.
We've done
I
a
gotta
lot of the
pick
backlog.
Doom.
We got like
It's
2
Doom.
years of backlog here
That's
that
true.
are done. We've legitimately worked our way through a lot of the staples of Game Pass. So, yeah. Okay. I also want to ask Alex W, because you weren't here last year. We don't have a game for you for this show. So what would your pick be as well for game? So I don't forget about it, because I will forget.
Oh, hold on.
If I don't
here.
ask you
It was
now.
just up on my screen, and now my brain is thinking about Doom. I think I might pick, and you. I don't know. Maybe you guys have played this. I have not yet. I'm gonna pick Dredge.
Hell yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
All right. Okay, I think we should talk about Atomfall next, because I think Blueprints is gonna devolve into Alex and I having crackpot theories. So
I wish I had my camera so I could show my notes. Oh my god.
my big board of things. Okay,
Pepe Silvio
So-
in this game.
Atomfall was my pick. It is. Oh, why did I forget the developer for this game that I like quite a
Rebellion.
lot? Yeah. Okay, Rebellion. That's what I thought. Steve, that's made a lot of good
They
stuff
make good
before.
comics too.
They make comics?
What?
Rebellion makes Judge Dredd.
What?
What?
Incredible. I did not know that.
What?
Very
Excuse
cool.
Which to me,
Also the
it begs
Sniper
the
Elite
question,
franchise.
Why is there not a Judge Dredd video game?
Oh wait,
That's another
why-
topic though.
That's why they did the Aliens versus Predator games, because there were comics first.
Ah.
I just
Alex,
made
you
that
just
connection in my brain.
give us a link that we never had before. Yeah, Rebellion, devs of the Sniper Elite series, which I also very much like. I think, Alex, you also have played quite a few of those. Yeah,
Yep.
very,
I think
very
I
fun
played
series.
2 onwards.
Very fun series. Atomfall, hard swing in a different direction. This is almost like an immersive sim, stealth, action, Fallout-y maybe thing.
I wouldn't say it's very Fallout. To be
The only reason I say Fallout is it's very open. Because I think Stalker gives another good reference, but it's not quite as dark as Stalker is.
I was thinking Metro as well.
Metro's good, but Metro's more
Yeah.
linear. Atomfall feels
except
really
for
open.
Exodus. There's some open-ended levels in Exodus that I would say is fairly close in some ways.
But yeah, I've been tremendously enjoying this. Basically, it's a first-person. You got your stealth abilities, you've got your guns, you've got your cricket bats that you can hit people with if you find them laying about, because it's all very British. That's the running vibe of the game.
The thickest British accents you have ever seen, and they
British
are
accents.
glorious.
10 out of 10. Another game with really good like voice acting for the vibe.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Yeah, the premise of the start of it is you wake up in an underground bunker. You don't know who you are. The scientist that finds you doesn't know who you are. You either help him or forcibly take his things and then leave. And that's it. That's about as much guidance as you get, aside from the fact that the scientist wants you to find the interchange, which is like an underground thing. That's about all you know. You don't know where it is. You don't have any quest markers. You have a couple of notes that you found that might have given you a lead that you can track. And all those leads do is give you like a couple of like search areas if you have the setting turned on, so you can go and like look for other things if you've heard something. Some of them will have like latitude and longitude, and those will actually put a marker on your map to go like find a thing.
Oh boy.
You don't need to actually know the latitude and longitude. It does that for you. But you need to find a map with like a specific... If it's a thing that guides you to a specific spot, it will say the spot in the note. And yeah, you explore... There's a couple... I think there's 4 regions, from what I've heard. I've been in 2 of them in this early bit of the game. I took a hard turn immediately as soon as I got out into a mine system and left the, I think, quote-unquote starter zone immediately and went into the heavily militarized one.
I did the exact same thing.
Might be a mistake, but I've been having fun exploring random cellars, finding a bunch of puzzles, lots of stuff. I've actually located the interchange within 2 hours of starting the game by finding a bunch of hidden information.
I think I took a different path to the interchange, but I saw the mines you were talking about where it talked about the interchange and stuff.
Yeah, that's not actually where I found the info.
There's a lot of ways to find it.
There's the mines, but then there was a puzzle in a cellar that I completed that opened a hidden door with a note that had a specific location.
That's awesome.
This sounds awesome. I haven't found any of these puzzles.
Yeah, like
I must need more time on this game because
this feels like a slow burn game, for sure.
I've had a lot of trouble starting this. A lot of also because while the accessibility settings are interesting, there's something about the camera quality in this that gets me motion sick really easily.
There's a lot of, I will say one of the things that can be kind of rough in the game is a lot of the uneven terrain can bump the camera around a lot. It didn't really they didn't really smooth a lot of that motion out, which may have had something to do with your motion sickness.
Another thing that I guess I get that it's going for realism, and you know, because this game also on its base difficulty really emphasizes the survival and crafting aspects of it. I hate viscerally when I don't go the same speed every direction.
Really? That's fascinating.
That's another thing that really like makes me motion sick as well.
Interesting.
Because I can't get my brain to accept that, you know, in real life, when you're backing up, it's not gonna be
not as fast
as going forward. In a game, I need smoother motion in a game, smoother and more consistent motion.
Yeah, I wonder if there's any accessibility settings with the help with that, but
I looked and there didn't seem to be from what but I spent most of like the hour just sort of trying to get my bearings, get my sea legs pretty much for this game. Hearing you guys talk about the puzzles, I want to play more, but this is also, I think, somewhat lower on my to-do list because also like this is a very pretty game and it's visually it's all very well put together. I don't think it's my kind of aesthetic.
Really, I love the look of this game. I think this is one of my like favorite of this type, just because like I really like Stalker and I really like Metro, but I get really tired of the dingy like dirt tunnel look. And same with Fallout. Like I like Fallout quite a lot, but Fallout also has that same like green tinted wasteland look.
They pick a lot more, Ryan, because
they pick a monotone color pattern per game and stick with it, whether it's brown or green or gray or blue.
I really like this has really bright reds and really bright like almost neon green grass, lots of like stone around, so you get grays.
even if it's kind of on the generic side, I love me a good post-apocalyptic look, but the real hook is a alt history World War II post-apocalypse.
Yes.
That's sick.
Mm.
That's
It's great.
so cool.
I love the like military look of the stuff in the game. I really like the inventory system. Bizarrely, I thought I would hate it going in, but the like having pneumatic tubes that you can find to like send your stuff to storage that you can then access at other
Yeah.
pneumatic tubes is very cool.
I did hear about that, and I never got to that part, but it sounds.
I
Really
found a couple. Yeah, they're all over
Yeah,
the
I
place.
found 2 or 3.
And they let you like basically have an infinite storage, but they're fun because it like, to me, it makes me actually utilize the things in my inventory more. Like a grenade takes up an amount of space, so like I want to get rid of that grenade because it takes up space. How do I get rid of that grenade? I throw it at someone.
Use it.
And so
And this is
I'm actually
like
engaging
other,
with the stuff.
and in contrast to something like Fallout, if you have gear that you don't need or anything, you can't just sell it because there's no currency in this game. It's all trading, baby.
Yep.
Which is really, really interesting. And it does bring me on to one point. I'm actually I was looking up while we were talking about this because I was curious how well this game sold. And it seems like it's actually super successful. So it seems like uh within like the first not even month of launch they had 1.5 million players, which is cool to see. Because I was a little worried when I was playing this. I was a little worried that maybe it didn't do quite as well because it's one of those games that seems super generic on the surface. Like if you're just
Yeah,
looking at gameplay, I feel like it's a hard game to sell because a lot of what makes the game interesting is a lot of small kind of tweaks or changes to
Like
a typical
systems-y
open
things
world.
that are really hard to
Yeah,
show.
yeah. Because I feel like for a lot of people, it's like, oh, this just seems like a generic open world game. Once you get into it, there's a lot of neat little systems that really make you think about what you're doing a lot
Mhm.
more. But it's hard to portray in like gameplay videos, even by the developers or a review or something like that.
Yeah, I will say, like,
Yeah,
I'd
I
seen
had
reviews and stuff before playing this. None of them set me up to actually expect what it was.
Yeah.
if I'm being 100% honest, I saw one of you guys pick this last time, and I went, yeah.
Savage.
And I was so
Yeah.
wrong. I mean, I don't know. When I saw like the trailers of it and stuff, I went, it looks like British Fallout. I already play a lot of Fallout. Yeah, whatever I had seen leading up to it really did not like show off the gameplay, and that's where I
Mhm.
feel like this game really shines. Now, don't get me wrong, I really think the world building and everything is awesome too, but
Mhm.
like to me, it's just the way the game is set up that really hooked me.
Yeah.
And
I've really liked one of the things that I'm really appreciating about this, having gone back, and Alex knows I've been addicted to playing Morrowind lately, of all things, because the Oblivion remaster has kickstarted my Elder Scrolls addiction in full swing. So I had to find more, and the only one I hadn't played was Morrowind, so I'm doing that now. The thing I really like about Atomfall is that, like Morrowind, I'm keeping track of things via journal entries. Like, I have a specific set of like journal tasks to do, and it's, instead of it being like everything is marked out everywhere and I'm just following points, I'm actually like looking through and reading information and going like, okay, I understand like the plot here because I'm being forced to read to know what I'm going for. And I think that helps kind of build a cohesive setting and encourage exploration. Because like, oh, I now feel like I've made meaningful progress if I find a note hidden somewhere that is really just a reference to another place that I can go to in the future, where it's like, oh, there's a cache here, here's a key and a note with the coordinates, so I'll go find that. And I think it works really well to give you like mini objectives without you actually having an overarching, you have to do this thing.
Mhm.
I have not seen a like a modern game do that kind of thing. Like literally, the last one I can think of is Morrowind. I'm sure there's more out there that do it, but like even like there's Assassin's Creed games, whatever, that like say that they narrow it down to an area rather than a point, and then you get there and it's blatantly obvious where you have to go or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It does feel like they took the concept of like the cult of Cosmos, or what was it called in Valhalla, the Hidden Ones or something like that. And
Yeah.
they really expanded that out to the main story. And that was one of the coolest parts of both of those games, was this overlying uh, system of like picking up clues to find specific
Mhm.
people to assassinate. and it feels like they took that concept and that's how
They've run with
their
it.
quests are structured. They really ran with it, which is super interesting.
Yeah.
I really kind of hope that more games pick up that path, that
Absolutely.
option.
Because I think the thing for me is it really allows me to feel like I am figuring things out rather than the game telling me the solution.
Exactly.
Which, like, I really liked the new God of War games, but that was my biggest problem with Ragnarok at the start, especially, is it's very, very hand-holdy. It's also the reason I've had issues playing Horizon in the past, because Aloy does the same thing, where she'll, like,
Atreus,
self-narrate.
pipe down. I know about the pulley system.
I see the rock that I need to shoot. I get it. Yeah, I really like not having that stuff be constant and just being able to, like, look around the environment. And it's just very nice because it feels like Atomfall's a game that kind of encourages you to take it at its pace, which I think in a way is very indicative of the, like, quaint British countryside that it's trying to portray, that is actually just an active radiation war zone. So
Good stuff.
yeah, great stuff. I do think this is probably the most impressive thing Rebellion's made in a while, because I think compared to Sniper Elite especially, there's a lot of really unique stuff going on with Atomfall. And I'm excited to play more, and especially see where the story's going, because I've only found like 2 NPCs that I can talk to, and everyone else has tried to kill me on sight. So I don't know if anyone else
really
fought like the
happy.
crazy zombie things anywhere.
Jesus
Not
Christ.
yet.
I fought one.
I fought one, and it
kinda
nearly
scared me.
murdered me. It was really, really angry.
Now, we've been very positive about this game. I need to rant about something.
Yeah.
The fucking rat nests. They suck, dude. They suck.
Yeah, the swarms of stuff are hard to deal with.
There's basically like sometimes they're like beehives or they're little like rat nests, but they'll just constantly spawn
Or
these like
bats.
swarming enemy bats at you until you like bust the nest or the whatever. So annoying. They're so loud. They're not fun to fight, and they just swarm you constantly and pester you. It is
You just
the worst
spam the
part of the
kick
game
button
so
too.
far.
You spam the kick button to deal with them, and it kind of sucks. So
It sucks.
don't love those. I like it more when they just have the swarm, and it's just the swarm. There's no other thing. It's just the bad swarm of things, and I don't need to go find a nest.
Although I do love it kind of bringing back to a little detail that I like. So there's a kick button, right? Where you can like kick an enemy and it stuns them. I like how contextually, if you look down, it turns into a stomp. That was a really nice little
Yeah.
Ah.
detail that I wish they used for more than just stomping on rats. Like maybe
It'd be cool if you could
enemies
like
are,
stomp
on the
down a
ground, you could
trapdoor or something.
stomp down a trapdoor, or maybe you can do like a finisher where you stomp on someone's like head or something like that would be kind of fun. Maybe it's just because I want to play Doom.
You're feeling the glory kill need.
Yeah. But it just like little. That's kind of what we're saying. Little things like that, where it's like, oh, there's like a contextual like kick or stomp, which is just kind of a fun
Yeah.
fun idea.
No, I totally think if you're anyone that is into like Stalker or similar types of things, but wants something a little bit less like dark, I think this is probably a great pickup to play. So, any other thoughts on Atomfall? Are people planning on finishing this one? I'm definitely going to be playing it more. Don't know if I'll finish it, but
There's
the
so
itch
many
is
things
still
coming
there.
out.
Yeah, I don't.
There's so many things
I
coming out.
want
I do want to keep
to-
up with it.
It's so low on the list right now, and it makes me feel sick.
Yeah.
But you've talked about environmental puzzles, and I always have a need for those in my life.
All right.
I'll say like if it seemed like we were saying, if it seems like it just seemed like a generic open world shooter thing, definitely worth reappraisal, because I think like we said, a lot of the smaller kind of systems or small details I think adds a lot of flavor and adds a lot of uniqueness to it. It just doesn't seem like that on the surface.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I think I'll come back to it. I don't know if I'll finish it, but I do think I want to play it more. If not now, at least someday.
okay.
What's your
My
game,
next
Ryan?
pick is going to be Claire Obscure, Expedition 33. I think as anyone
Oh,
who knows me would know I was about
okay.
to pick.
Oh my
so
god! who
you
could've
want
seen
us
this
to lose
coming?
our entire
That's crazy.
lives to this? Okay, I see where you're going. So we can't just spend the 2 hours on this because you can't. We can't. It's not going to be that simple. You have to spend a minimum of 12.
I
Alex,
will
you're,
specify
like, offended.
if you start Clair Obscur, and if someone here doesn't play far enough to get off of Lumiere and gets in no fights, I will be angry. So you have to play enough to get off of Lumiere, which granted is not that long, but still. Know that there is a prologue, and the prologue doesn't have a lot of gameplay, so get to the actual game before so we can have things to talk about. Very good game from what I've played of it so far. Okay.
I totally missed that was on Game Pass. I probably would have picked it otherwise.
Yeah, well, now you're playing it anyway.
Yep.
Hey, Alex.
God, yes, Ryan.
Let's talk about Blueprints.
Ready to lose it?
Let me pull up my notes.
Oh boy,
this will be when
I'll open up my leather-bound journal.
This will be like when I try to explain Alan Wake 2 to you guys. I feel like that's what this is gonna be.
Basic idea of, I think, story and game premise and mechanics so far. Basic premise: you are a child named Simon whose uncle recently passed away. In his will, he bequeaths to you the entirety of his mansion and everything in it, with the one condition that you find the 46th room of his 45-room estate.
And I'll specify the note that you're given says you need to find it in a timely manner, and I realized later on it's not timely manner as in time, it's timely manner as in clocks, because there's a lot of clocks in the manor.
It took me a month.
I was so concerned that I had a limited amount of days to do it, and I had a clenched asshole the entire time. And then I think like I saw something randomly that like
It's
written on the wall somewhere, and it's like with a question mark as a pun, and I'm like, okay, yeah, it's a pun.
Everything's a pun, Wyatt. Everything has its place. There is not a single object in any room that doesn't have a purpose.
Yep.
Oh, also, basic mechanics. Picture a point-and-click game mixed with a deck builder, mixed with a roguelite.
Yeah. I think the thing about Blueprints that I like the most, and we should preface this by saying both Alex and I have finished the game. Quote unquote finished the game.
Gotten 2 credits. People have been calling getting to the credits the tutorial of the game because there's so much post-game content. There's so much. It's crazy.
Yeah, the post-game stuff is really dependent on if you're a person that thinks ARGs sound fun, you're going to have a great time with the post-game. If you're a normal person, I think you're going to finish the game and be like, I feel satisfied and stuff.
It's puzzles within puzzles, interlinked.
Yeah, so this is a classic like roguelite style game where
they recommend you keep a physical journal for hints.
Yep, one of the first rooms you enter has a thing that says keep a physical journal, which I did, and have quite a number of things. I have multiple tables in this journal to write things down in. There's a order of chess pieces. There's rules to math puzzles.
Oh god!
I have a bunch of random dates written down.
Oh,
a bunch of
if we
music sheets.
Oh my god! And then you find out pretty soon. The entire layout of the house is a puzzle in and of itself. There, hidden words everywhere. How will you find them?
So I want to ask before Alex and I go on on insane tangents. What do you two think?
I quite liked it. I also like right as I ended playing it, I was like, "Oh shoot, this is a lot bigger than I was thinking." Mm-hmm. Like, there's a lot more places I can be going.
Did you happen to see the side of the cliff? That the mansion is on.
I don't know. I went.
That's a no.
Like,
that is a no if you don't know.
I've been like out and around by like the campsite and stuff. I haven't seen like if there's like a back or a side. I have not gotten there yet.
So you haven't unlocked the elevator outside?
No, but I realized that there was like a bunch of stuff out there that I could unlock, and that's where I was like, "Oh, this is bigger
Yeah, there's
than I.
so with the roguelite aspect, there are permanent upgrades to help you a little bit, like an allowance, a gem mine, and plus 20 steps, so you start with 70 instead of 50.
I'm beginning to feel what you guys felt when I was talking about clone drone.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm gonna get my take out of the way here, real quick, because I feel like I don't have as much to say as you guys do. Much like Rogue Trader, which is what we played last month, right? I think the design for this game, genius. As someone who likes roguelikes, the way they incorporated point and click and puzzles, and the way that it involves so many different rooms and how the rooms can be used to your advantage and everything, so cool, and such a cool art style, and the way it kind of conveys information to you, I thought was incredibly well paced. I am not a puzzle game person. um, which is a bit of a barrier. It's going to be more of a barrier for some people than it is for others. I think for me, it's another one of those examples of like, wow, this is really smartly designed and well made, and this is really cool. And it's probably not something that's going to stick with me for very long, just in terms of keeping my interest. But I could definitely see why it's taken off.
You
In
feel the
way that
quality.
it has. It's really sometimes you have to specify difference between well designed and smartly designed. Not that they're like inherently mutually exclusive, but like it's more like what it kind of leans on more. This is really smartly designed by someone who knows their shit. um, and that's really cool to see. I'm just not a puzzle guy or a point and click guy for that matter. So I don't think it's one that I'm gonna stick with for very long, but hell yeah, it's really, really well made. Have at it.
Yeah, do you know what country you're in yet, Wyatt?
What country I'm in?
Yeah, have you
Yeah.
figured out the country you're in? Well,
Pardon?
Cool. Also, yeah, there's also political intrigue subplots in this.
yeah, so the entire plot
Um,
is about political intrigue.
I started getting a little. I started getting a little bit of that.
There's,
Granted,
the-
a thing to set up here, just an important thing to know going into this game. The main plot of the game is that you, Simon, are trying to reach the 46th room. The game finishes when you reach the 46th room. That is like the game completed. There's a whole bunch of other stuff. That other stuff is not necessarily part of the main game. Because I think a big thing that I did not notice while I was going through is I thought getting to the end of the game, the quote-unquote like regular end of the game, was going to involve a lot of this information that I was getting from side puzzles. It does not. If you feel like you're stuck and you're looking for information here, you can finish the objective of the game without diving into all of that stuff. That said, diving into all of that stuff is the really fun part. So there's a lot of fun to be had in that direction. But it's important to stop yourself a little bit before you go full conspiracy theory, because generally speaking, you can complete the thing without actually needing any of that information.
I think the two rooms that I routinely like the two rooms that I routinely only needed to get into the antechamber at the end were the foundation, which breaks some of the rules of the game in that when you find this room, that's the only room that you
So before we
permanently
talk about the
step.
foundation, Alex, we should establish how you play the game, which is you
Oh God, right! I only
walk
barely touched
into
the mechanics.
building.
God.
The only room that's there at the start.
All the lore.
The only room at the start is the entry chamber, and you have 3 doors that you can access. Anytime you open a door, a set of rooms is randomly pulled from your draft list. You can then pick one of these rooms to draft, and that becomes the room that is there. So, like, you pull a bedroom that has no other doors, but has a bunch of stuff in it that you can grab. You can stick that on the side. But if that had no other doors, you've only got 2 doors left now. So you now have to go and try to get a door with more doors, or a room with more doors there, so that you can move through this mansion and actually make it to the end in the antechamber at the end of the hallways. So the whole objective is basically figuring out how you can lay a path down from this starting chamber all the way to the end and get into this antechamber. The doors in the antechamber are locked, so you can't just get there. You have to solve puzzles along the way, which we won't spoil, but there's a bunch of different ones that you can solve to open up these various doors. But that means you have to open the door, and you have to get a layout of rooms that allows you to reach that door, and that can be really complicated.
The little bit of RNG comes in, because there are some points when you'll have an incredibly short day and somehow just end up with nearly entirely dead ends before the fifth row.
Yeah, and like a proper roguelike, you can lose this game through sheer luck in terms of a single run. The important thing to note is that like there is no consequence to you losing a run beyond the day you're on. It's not like there's no punishment for that. It's just that you have to restart, so you have to go back and redo it again. So just know that, like, yes, this is... Alex and I are talking about this from the perspective of puzzle games primarily, but it is also very much a roguelike, and a roguelike that requires you to engage with the fact that it is a roguelike. And you'll need information from different rooms, and generally, like, the smart thing to do is if you see a new thing, you're probably going to want to pull the new thing even if it's going to end your run, because that might give you information that will help you in the next run as you're going through this space and, like, building out this mansion. I really, really like it. I think it's very fascinating. I do think it's a bit obtuse as a game, but in a good way, where you have to kind of really dive into it. And the journal advice is very serious. Do have a journal, and more importantly, have a collection of screen captures that you can refer back to for any bit of text that you might need in the future.
I will say, on the RNG note, I have, like, this game it's finally enabled me to try the other games, because I ran into a good few unfortunate RNG runs where I'm just like, okay, it's been like round after round of dead ends and things like that. I'm not using them wisely, so I think it's time to take a little bit of a break from it. But I am so excited to jump back into this game when the need hits me, because it will, because there's nothing like this. Honestly.
For reference, I played, I think, about 20 to 25 hours of this game. Beating it took me, I think, about like 13 or so, and then I just kept playing after that. So it's pretty quick to beat if you get lucky, but there is a lot more.
I'm at a 1.3 days played. I don't know where that breaks it down into hours.
You'd be in like the 30s somewhere.
All right.
Yeah, I don't know. I think this is one of the most smartly designed games I've played. I do think I hit a point of petering out on wanting to finish past the credits bits, just because like the puzzles kept going, and they kept going so deep. And the information that I was getting for a lot of things was really incremental. So I hit a point where I was feeling like I was getting very incremental information for an amount of effort that was staggering. Once you start getting into like sigil puzzles and some other crazy stuff, there's some really cool things to find with it, but it does start to feel a little bit more like an ARG than a puzzle game, where I'm like having to do a whole bunch of legwork of solving puzzles that becomes less fun. That said, I think you can just kind of limit yourself to, like, if you see a puzzle that looks like way too crazy for you, there's probably nothing that crazy behind it. It seems like generally that stuff is not so important in terms of the ongoing story of the game.
I think, without spoiling stuff, I think my favorite like medium to long term puzzle in this game that I've gotten through so far is probably the tomb.
I still have never gotten that room to roll. Speaking of
That's
RNG,
crazy.
So that's my one negative of the game. I've played this game for 25 hours. There is a room in like an exterior section you can unlock.
That's right.
It's got special rooms you can roll. There is one room that I know has things, because Alex has told me. Not once, and I visit this room every day. Every time I start a new day, I go to this room. I have never seen the option for this room to spawn. And so I'm just missing like a piece of the puzzle from that room. So I just can't, like, I just kind of have to force restart runs now until I get that room to spawn. If I want to continue the story that needs me to go into there, because it legitimately has just not happened. And I've like finished the game multiple times since then. So
Which is wild to me because that tomb was incremental to me getting to room 46. So I'm...
No, there's completely other ways to handle it, which is very clever. Like, there's so many ways to actually get to the end of this.
Oh, yeah.
You do not have to do the same thing. Like, there's not one path, but it is very much like certain paths are going to require a lot of RNG. So you kind of have to take the ones that make themselves available to you. Okay. Any other thoughts on Blueprints? Do people think they're going to keep playing this?
I think I will. I quite enjoyed it, and in fact recommended it to my partner.
Please keep me updated on how you go. I want to hear. I want to hear your conspiracy board takes.
This is my what what Atomfall is to Alex. This game is to me. I think. I have an inkling that I might return to it at some point because I am.
But why? Don't you want to know about the thieves in the royal capital of Finn Ares that have broken in to the Crown's fabled closed exhibits? Don't you want to know about that?
I am fascinated to return to it at some point. I think not
noted
right
in the
now.
Reddington Herald on September 2nd.
Ryan, you're really.
I see you've taken to the archives well.
you're making me not want to play.
Look, I just have a note that says periodic table puzzle.
Yeah.
Dartboards.
I did figure out the dartboard puzzle.
Oh, don't worry, it gets worse.
The math puzzle.
There's so many
it changes.
More rules.
It changes every time you go through.
I assumed.
That's another thing with the game. When you're drafting, the closer you get to the antechamber, in terms of like northwise distance, the harder the puzzles in any puzzle rooms become, and they also get harder every time you draft them additionally. So they'll just continually get crazy.
Don't forget how much the further you get, how often the friggin' doors are locked.
Yes, but you can game the system because you can find rooms that allow you to shift the balance of locked doors to security doors, and then if you can manage to turn the power off,
but I've never
you make
found
every security door open when you go inside, and so you can just enter the whole thing and it doesn't matter anymore.
There's that. Or if you get the kennel and you get the I think the root two of my favorite combinations are the kennel, getting the kennel inside, and the root cellar for an outside room. The root cellar
also never seen the kennel.
Makes dirt spots more available. I think the kennel was something I got from a puzzle, from some of the rooms. The kennel, one, has dogs that you can pet in it, so that's fantastic.
Incredible.
Two, has an effect that anytime you dig in a room, all the doors unlock.
Phenomenal. Yeah, it's just some example of like how this game does synergies, like a traditional roguelite would, is instead of it's about now the doors and like how those are handled and all that type of stuff. Yeah, as why I put a very smartly designed game that I very much, I think, will play more of, but I'm going to let it sit for a while because my notes are starting to make me look like I'm insane.
You're starting to feel how I feel when I was playing Alan Wake in a different way, gameplay wise, but
Wyatt, there are 8 dates, and I don't know what they mean.
Ryan, if we count small gates, 8 dates.
No, we don't need to say about the gates because it doesn't matter. It's all nothing, Wyatt. You got to keep going down.
Ryan, it's not a circle. It's
you got to remember that the day 0 was November 7th.
You must go down.
It's not a lake, it's an ocean.
I'm also interested in figuring out the answer to that pretty much around the world in 80 days puzzle that they have.
I don't think that is a puzzle. I think it's a red herring. But
no, then why do they have the little thumbtacks that you can put on each country?
Oh, now I don't know what you're talking about. I thought you were talking about the globes.
Oh,
there's a whole separate thing.
No, you can just interact and spin the globes. No, this is a puzzle inside room 46.
Alex, don't give away the puzzles too much. They're there. It's
I don't
a demo
know the
treatment.
answer to it. How can I give away?
All right. Well, that's Blueprints. Before any other talk we have about this game is going to devolve into more and more insane statements that mean nothing. Because what about the boat without bats? Okay. All right. Yeah, I asked already who was going to play it more. I think Alex, you said you were interested in playing more. Wyatt, this is not your thing.
But maybe at some point.
We'll lock you into a room and make you finish Blueprints. See what happens.
Oh my god.
Here's the thing, that could be kind of fun. Is like you guys.
How long does it take Wyatt to finish Blueprints?
Tell you what, you get
I
third
mean,
place or
okay.
above this year, you get to
Either that
finish
would-
Blueprints as your punishment.
Either that would be really fun or would turn into basically just bullying. It's hard to say.
Yeah, it's either torture or gonna be really fun. Okay, well, Alex, what's your next pick for Game Pass
Well,
Games Club?
seeing as you have put on my plate a 90-hour RPG, Ryan, I am forced to choose something a little interesting, something that I was first introduced to as a mobile game that I am very surprised to see on here. Surprised, but not in a bad way. This is a cozy game that I fear could also turn into a rage game for
Oh
me
boy.
at some points. We are going to be playing Lonely Mountains Snow Riders.
Ooh,
It's a
I
skiing
love this
game.
franchise.
I love that game.
Very
I've never
good
heard of it.
franchise. Yeah, there's like this is a downhill biking one. I haven't played Snow Riders, but there was like a downhill biking
Oh,
one.
I haven't
that
heard of
was
the
really
biking
good.
one.
Um, yeah, it was great. So I'm very excited about this. Very good pick. Okay, well, that's our games for the next round. We will see you guys in a month or two when we talk about these. So hosts, you know what we always do. It's time for shoutouts. What's the thing to shout out from this week?
Well, actually, I'll start. It was kind of perfect timing that what we're talking about this week was South of Midnight, because I went to go see Sinners a few days ago. And listen, I'm not going to spoil anything about Sinners because I feel like if you don't know anything about the movie, that's the best way to go into it. All I'm going to say is go watch it. It's amazing. It's probably one of the best movies that I've seen this year. Probably the best movie I've seen this year.
Mhm.
It's going to be hard to top. You know what? If I say anything more, it's going to spoil it. Just go watch it. It's fucking
I'm very
excellent.
excited. Seems like a very, very good movie.
And don't look up anything about it. Go in completely blind.
All right. Well, I'll go next because this is a fun one. I went to a Renaissance fair yesterday. Very fun. 104-degree weather.
Oh god.
It was truly, and like
Holy
we were
crap.
in rain last week. It's been really hot today too, but yesterday was like phenomenally hot. It broke a bunch of temperature records all over California. Yeah, crazy day to go to the Ren Fair, and that means I have this, which is like nowhere else on my body is sunburnt except for right here. I have like this harsh line from where my t-shirt was that I've just missed with sunscreen.
You're beginning a farmer's tan, Ryan.
So I've got like a, you can see the like hard line farmer
Oh,
tan
boy.
there.
Yeah.
Everywhere
Oh,
else
it really is a
totally
hard
fine.
line.
It is a complete hard line. Like, it's hard to actually show because of the angle of my chair. But yeah, very fun. Just happened to miss a single spot on my body with sunscreen. And it was my elbow on that arm. So,
You hate to see it.
yeah. All right, Alex or
You hate to miss
Alex?
it until it stings.
All right, I've
Um,
got one. So last week was Free Comic Book Day.
Hell yeah.
And I was out at comic book stores and I picked up Milestone Comics Compendium Volume 1. It's really good and I highly recommend people read it. I don't think Milestone gets a lot of recognition. I mean, it kind of does, but like not so much. They were published by DC in the 90s. It's minority owned. It was over and done with in the 90s. I mean, they have some more recent ones that DC publishes, but if anybody ever watched the TV show Static Shock as a kid,
Hell yeah.
Yeah,
Static Shock was great, dude.
they published Static, the comic that's based on, and it's the same writer for the TV show and the original comic.
Hell yeah.
nice.
So I'm reading through a compendium of all their books, and it's really, really good. The writing is fantastic. Highly recommend.
Add them to my list.
Nice.
All right, Alex, what you got?
Well, my half brother that I don't get to see too often is coming to visit for on vacation, so that's always fun. Also, the day that we're recording this is Mother's Day, so happy Mother's Day.
Good shout out. I hope everyone here has already called their mothers. All right. Well, on that note, it's the end of the show. As always, Tuesdays will be on Pockets Pop of your choice, YouTube and Twitch. No podcast for the next 2 weeks because I'm on vacation, so don't expect the usual upload during our times. But we'll be back with things afterwards, and there will be episodes being uploaded of our Split Fiction playthrough throughout that duration. So catch those.
We're still working on it. I feel like we're getting close.
Oh, we're very close, I think.